This is a reading on the comparison between Christianity and Buddhism. It's a series of lectures given by Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, an eminent Thai forest Buddhist monk of the 20th century, and he gave these lectures at the Thomson Memorial Lecture. My personal opinion is that Christians in the days of Jesus could practice according to the teaching of Christ to gain the highest fruits without caring for the lengthy Old Testament. The same holds true in the days of the Buddha, when many a man realized the noble path and obtained the noble fruition without having anything to do with what is known as Tripitaka. The Tripitaka was compiled after the Mahaparinibbana of the Awakened One, which is passing away of the Buddha. A very remarkable fact as regards the Tripitaka is that it is many times, about 20 times, bigger than the whole Bible, including the Old Testament. It is a record of practical teachings and methods in multifarious variations directly aimed at extinction of suffering. As for the Bible, in the first instance, it is the New Testament containing the teaching of the practice leading to emancipation. And thus, only 1/4 of the Bible contains the actual teaching of Jesus. Short as it is enough or more than enough for the practical purpose of emancipation. I therefore dare say that Christ himself might have forbidden his disciples to be very much concerned with the Old Testament, which was perhaps even less extensive at that time than nowadays for the purpose of study and practice. I will point out later my reasons for making this statement. This kind of prohibition on the part of Jesus is the same as the Enlightened One, which is also the Buddha, out of practical considerations, discouraged his disciples from discussing impractical problems such as, is a person reborn after death or not? What is it that is reborn? How is one reborn? To futile speculation light, is the world limited or not? He gave no answer, as is stated in the Malunkyavada Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya. Even such questions as, are there gods? Does heaven literally exist or not? Where is heaven? Were also regarded as irrelevant by the compassionate one. He called such useless questions unanswerables. But time and again, the master insisted upon making such enquiries as, from where and how do different kinds of mind oppressing suffering arise? What is that gives rise to suffering? What is its direct cause? He pointed out that answers to such enquiries can be got directly through spiritual experience. He declared that in one's own experience, one will see by oneself that all kinds of suffering or spiritual death result from one's inability to reach Dhamma or God. By Dhamma or God, however, one is to understand here absolute truth. That absolute and universal truth is, wherever and whenever there arises a feeling that self belongs to self, resulting in selfishness there, and then arises suffering. Let me repeat that again. Absolute and universal truth is, wherever and whenever there arises a feeling that self belongs to self, resulting in selfishness, there and then arises suffering. But when there is no such feeling, that is, when self belongs to Dhamma or God, then there arises no suffering. When a man of practice reaches the stage of attainment where he is able to destroy his feeling in terms of self and selfishness, he is freed from suffering. For here and now, he is above suffering and therefore contented and satisfied. He need not inquire whether after death beings are reborn or not, where heaven is, etc. Although these are age-old questions. He does not bother about these questions because the happiness which results from the destruction of the feeling and the ingrained idea of self and selfishness is incomparably superior to that kind of happiness which is said to be experienced in the various heavens. In this stage of experience, he categorically puts an end to egoism. Hence, no ego self is left to die, or to be born, or to suffer. There is left nature alone, which is by itself, without any death or birth. This state of experience is translated into conventional language, the attainment of the deathless, or God. Everybody should clearly understand that at any time, whether within a moment, an hour, or even a day, when there is no suffering whatsoever of self as belonging to self, we have reached and become one with God. This is possible because ignorance or attachment, which gives rise to the feeling of self and which works as a covering, is put to an end at that time. Hence, the illuminating rays of God, or the absolute truth, Paramadhamma, enlighten our hearts and minds, which is in fact a universal phenomenon. He who is one with God will be given at that moment a new life or another type of life, which is totally different from the previous one. If this can be achieved on the highest level, i.e. in the absolute sense, then it is to be known as freedom or emancipation. That is once and for all, emancipation from the world of the flesh. For such a person who has attained this state of emancipation, there is nothing left to be done. His religious practice is completed. This is the direct way and requires no waste of time in studying unnecessary things. One should only study that which is necessary and try to solve problems of immediate concern. One should practice to gain the highest fruit without delay. Let one study only one single point as to how to get rid of craving, which is the mother of I-ness, my-ness, I, me and my, so that one's mind becomes pure. I'm fully convinced that the founders of religion, without exception, had enough compassion for their disciples and followers to save their time by not allowing them to study unnecessary things. Even the short message as contained in the few pages of the Sermon on the Mount in the book of Matthew is far more than enough and complete for practice to attain emancipation. There is no need to take into account even the rest of the New Testament, not to mention the Old Testament. I wish to say directly that the Christian officials who preach Christianity in the street and on the radio do not know how to select the essentials for their messages. It is the same with the Buddhist monks who teach simply the general covering or outward form of Buddhism. They do not grasp the essence of Dharma. This essence is not to have attachment to anything whatsoever in terms of I and mine. In the Mahasarupama Sutta, Mula Panasa Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha says that The core of brahmacharya, the holy life, is emancipation. Vimutti, which is the same as salvation. Wisdom, panya, is the sapwood surrounding the pith. Meditation, samadhi, is the bark around the sapwood. Morality, sila, is the outermost dry rind. And finally, gain, honor, name, and fame, and even heaven, are but the fallen leaves. What is generally taught, or what people are interested in these days, is not very much concerned with the essence or core of religion. That is why people of different religions are scattered and not in harmony with each other. In our comparative study of religion, we should compare religion straightforwardly without being considerate of anybody. I hope that all of you will pay special attention to this.